Welcome back to The Report with me, John Rees. Now, Sri Lanka's long-time leader, Mahinda Raja-paksa, has been defeated in what has been one of the closest elections in Sri Lankan history. He makes way for former friend and ally, President Maith-ripala Siri-sena. With more, here's Abdul Hameed.
Sri Lanka has a new president and the seventh in the island nation's history. Former Health Minister Maith-ripala Siri-sena was sworn in today in the country's capital, Colombo. The soft-spoken 63-year-old beat former long-term head of the country, Mahinda Raja-paksa, in what has been one of the closest elections to date. Shocking both opinion polls and politicians in the country and abroad, Siri-sena took over 51% of the vote, with Raja-paksa getting just under 48%.
මේ මැතිවරණය ලැබූ ජයග්‍රහණේ සතුට සියලු දෙනාටම රටේ සමස්ත පුරවැසියන්ට සතුටින් බෙදා හදා ගැනීමට අපි ඉඩ දිය යුතුයි. ඒ නිසා කිසියම් ආකාරයකින් හිංසා පීඩා කිරීමෙන් වැළකීලා ඊ타මත්ම අවිහිංසාවාදීව කරුණා සහගතව මෛත්‍රියෙන් මේ කටයුතු ඉදිරියට ගෙන යාමට සියලු දෙනාගේම සහයෝගය ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා.
The new president has promised to root out corruption and introduce sweeping reforms of the presidency, saying he will transfer many of its executive powers to parliament. He was elected on a tide of resentment against the former president's decision to remove the two-term limit on the presidency and also giving himself more powers over public servants and judges. The former president also alienated the minority Muslim community, who saw his handling of the radical Buddhist group Bodha Belasina as inadequate after riots allegedly incited by the group caused chaos in the Alufgama district in June last year. Raja-paksa, despite enjoying huge support among majority Sinhalese voters after overseeing the end of a separatist war by ethnic Tamil rebels in 2009, failed to bring about reconciliation in the years that followed with the minority Tamil residents, which ultimately led to them voting against him. The international reaction to the win has been positive, with US Secretary of State John Kerry and China's ruling party welcoming the new president. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi also called Siri-sena to congratulate him of being the new leader of a close friend and neighbour. Some of his allies hope he will rebalance the country's foreign policy, which tilted heavily towards China in recent years, with Raja-paksa falling out with the West over human rights and allegations of war crimes committed at the end of the conflict with the Tamil Tigers. President Siri-sena would now lead a diverse coalition of ethnic, religious, Marxist and centre-right parties, which analysts say could hamper economic reform and encourage populist policies. Abdul Hameed, The Report.
Well, joining us on the phone from Sri Lanka is Abdul Hameed Mohammed Azwer, Senior Advisor to the outgoing President. And we also have Amjad Saleem, a consultant in peace building and humanitarian issues, joining us from Sri Lanka on Skype. And here in the studio, Irfan Iqbal, who's Chief Editor of the news organisation Sonakar. Welcome to the programme. So, Irfan, was it a sense among voters that the existing president was attempting to shore up an authoritarian attitude towards the presidency that lost him this?
Yeah, undoubtedly. That was the sense, and people have spoken. So that clearly demonstrates that the people are against it. And I think the more in time he started demonstrating more towards becoming an going towards dictatorship. So he was doing, I think the public didn't like the way it started traveling. Everyone started feeling, living in fear and not enough development as we'd expect. So I think, of course, you're right. Yeah, you were rightly asking about it.
Mr. Azwer, let me bring you in. Your man lost, but he can't have thought that he would have done when he called this snap election. So were you surprised at the response during the campaign?
Am I surprised about the result?
Yes.
Is that what you want?
Yes.
Well, I'm a loyal supporter of Mahinda Raja-paksa. Therefore, I feel a little sad that he should taste defeat at this election, and it's a very close call indeed, because it's a matter of 600,000 votes. When he last won for the second time, I got a majority of 1.8 million votes. Now, what was the turn of events? Really, here is a man who has brought peace and security to this country. He has initiated mega developments just in a period of nearly 5 years after the end of the war. He cleared the country of all terrorism which is holding sway in the West too. We heard today about the most disheartening news in Paris and spreading all over in Europe. And here is a man who showed to the world how he can contain terrorism. Most ruthless terrorist leader, Prabhakaran, he waged the war against the elected government of Sri Lanka for a long period of 30 years. Even greater leaders earlier, the architect of the present executive presidency or the constitution, J.R. Jayawardena, couldn't fulfill the promises he gave to the people to bring peace.
Okay.
Followed by our Premadasa.
Let me just bring Amjad in on that point. Amjad, if Mr. Azwer's case is correct, he should have won the election, but he didn't. Why not?
I mean, if we all look at what happened in the UK after the Second World War, you know, when Churchill won the war, it wasn't that he was elected later on. I mean, I think what happened with Mahinda Raja-paksa is I think he lost touch with the people, and to some extent he lost touch with his own people, because if you look at there was a turning point that took place sort of in the early part of his campaign, where you know, a member of his party, which was termed a singular Buddhist party, actually left him saying that they felt that he had gone to a point of no return in terms of the nepotism, in terms of the corruption, and I think this is what has really swung it. So whilst, you know, he may have lost the support from the minorities, he also equally lost the support from also the majority, who were clearly they didn't like the cost of living rising up. You know, there was all this talk of a development boom that would come, and yes, we did have the roads, yes, we did have the shopping malls, but it only benefited a few people, and majority of people did not benefit from that. So I think there was a sense that this is a time for a change, to do away with this kind of what has been in Sri Lanka politics by dynasty, and to have something new. I mean, I was at the swearing-in ceremony early on today, and just to see the crowds there amassing, people from all walks of life who are just interested in a change, and I think that was what this election was about.
And how radically different do you think the new regime will be?
Well, I mean, it's. I think there's an anticipation that something that, you know, something has to change. That at least from the new president, the fact that he has pledged to look at rule of law, look at governance, arrest corruption, to address the issues of executive presidency. These are key concerns of a lot of people, because they felt that the executive presidency under Mahinda Raja-paksa was actually, you know, he was consolidating all the power. He had removed the Chief Justice. He had, you know, so I think that was a concern there. And it's interesting because, you know, the president in his manifesto did not say much about the minorities, but yet the minorities also wholeheartedly supported him, because I think there was a sense that there needs to be something different for Sri Lanka, and I think this is where the anticipation expectation is, and I think now the challenge for him is how do you match those expectations, and how do you temper what is a high expectation?
Just Iqbal in the studio here. So for the Muslim community, they didn't like what Raja-paksa was doing. Are they going to like this better?
I think I hope. All what we can do right now is hope. And the advantage at the moment is we have the two main Muslim political parties joined with the new president's coalition. And there is a clear agenda and a clear plan has been put forward. So I think there's no reason why we should doubt about the future, because as accordingly, we've been in constant touch with them as well. And he is a reachable guy, not a power-hungry dictator who would want to rule the country for long. So, I mean, he made it clear a short while ago when he was sworn in. He said very clearly that he's not going to seek even the second term. So he's very clear about it. And we are in better shape and hope.
Mr. Azwer, obviously you didn't support the new president, but do you think that he will be able to bring a degree of stability and a degree of progress still in the country?
Well, he seems to have told that he will not seek second election. Let him first complete his first term successfully, because all the forces that are around him, what people call is a hodgepodge alignment, a combination of several parties who is dragging the main artery into several ways. Now there are extremists there. The Hello Rumia is the one that struck the first blow against the Muslims by decrying halal and Qurban. And this new president, Mr. Maith-ripala Siri-sena, is the first person who said, no Qurban is allowed in my electorate, there is Polan Narwa. No cattle will be transported from here. So that is the first blow. And there is the former army commander, General Sarat Fonseca, who, during his election campaign last time, where he lost, he said that the Muslims and the Tamils are just wayfarers. They are visitors to this country. The visa is over. They have to return. Okay. The man behind the whole show.
Thank you, Mr. Azwer. Let me just put some of those points to Amjad. Well, there you have the criticism. It's a hodgepodge and it contains extremists. What do you say to those points?
I mean, it's funny that Mr. Azwer would say that, because up to a few weeks ago, actually, they were his colleagues in government. So, I mean, and he's been with the president for at least over the last 5 years. So, it's quite interesting now that he's coming out with those statements, when clearly there were feelings that these people have had since then. I mean, there is this challenge of trying to set a new vision for Sri Lanka, which is not just about a singular Buddhist extreme element. The challenge, of course, as we know, we've seen it in the UK, is when you have a coalition, is actually trying to kind of temper these expectations. Now, of course, the challenge, the immediate challenge for the new president is that they've set themselves this 100-day goal to get rid of the executive presidency and then to kind of transfer powers more to parliament and to have a much more different system. So I think that's going to be the immediate test for him, and then to see what comes out of it. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, I think one of the challenges Sri Lanka has to move in is to address the national question, where it's not just about minorities, but it is about everyone having an equal stake in it. And I think, the elections this time have proved it, that people who came out to vote, I mean, the Muslim community voted for him, despite the fact that the Muslim parties were with opposition. I mean, the Muslim parties to some extent had to move to the opposition to for political expediency. Otherwise, the Muslims would have voted anyway. So I think that clearly there is a sign that things need to change. The challenge for him is how do you move that forward? And the challenge ultimately is that the system that has been there for the last 60 years has to be changed somehow. And I think that's where we need to move away from the ethnic politics.
Okay, thank you all very much. We'll have to leave it there because that's unfortunately all we've got time for in this episode of The Report. I want to thank my guests on the show and to thank you at home for watching. Do remember you can keep up with us by following @Islam Channel on Twitter and by using the hashtag The Report. But for now, we'll leave you with scenes of footballer Yaya Toure, who's been awarded the Confederation of Africa Footballer of the Year, an accolade that he's now received 4 years in a row. Until Monday night, good night.